Zara stood by the window of the apartment she shared with her human boyfriend Noah, looking out at the city lights of Chicago. Her blue skin glowing softly in the darkness as she contemplated the upcoming weekend. She ran a slender six-fingered hand through her silvery hair that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Noah watched her from the couch, admiring how beautiful she looked, even when worried. Noah and Zara had been together for almost a year since they met at the Interspecies Cultural Center, where Noah worked as a liaison between humans and the Caraxian visitors who had arrived on Earth 3 years ago. The Caraxians came in peace, seeking cultural exchange and new trading partners. Their advanced technology and peaceful nature quickly earning them acceptance among most humans. Their relationship had blossomed quickly, but they had kept it private from Noah's family. Until now, Zara was the first Caraxian to date a human in Chicago, making them something of a novelty. She turned to face Noah, her large almond-shaped eyes with their vertical pupils expressing concern, the bioluminescent freckles across her cheeks pulsing with anxiety. "Noah, I want to meet your family," she said, her voice melodic with the slight harmonic undertone all Caraxians had when speaking English. "I know you have been avoiding this, but it is important to me and my culture. Family bonds are sacred." Noah sighed and put down his tablet. He had been avoiding this conversation for weeks. His family lived in a small town outside the city and were not exactly known for their progressive views, especially his uncle Steve, who frequently posted anti-alien comments online. "They are not like the people you meet in Chicago." "Zara," he said gently, "they have not had much contact with Caraxians, and they still believe some of those ridiculous stories from the tabloid." Zara moved across the room with the fluid grace characteristic of her species, and sat beside him, her skin temperature several degrees cooler than his, a sensation he had grown to love. "I understand your concern, but how will they ever learn the truth if they never meet one of us?" she asked, placing her hand on his. The contrast between her 6 slender blue fingers and his 5 human ones, striking but somehow perfect together. Her touch sent the familiar pleasant tingling sensation up his arm, a mild bioelectric field that all Caraxians naturally produced. "You are right," Noah admitted. "I am being unfair to them and to you. We will go this weekend for my mother's birthday dinner. I will call her tomorrow." Zara's freckles glowed brighter with happiness, her species' emotional responses often visible through their bioluminescence. "Thank you," she said, her dual-toned voice warm with affection. The next day, Noah called his mother to tell her he was bringing someone special to her birthday dinner. He carefully mentioned that his girlfriend Zara was Caraxian. There was a long pause on the line before his mother. Carol responded, "A Caraxian?" She repeated, her voice revealing her surprise. "Well, that is certainly unexpected, but you know we would love to meet anyone who is important to you." Noah felt relief wash over him at her cautious but accepting response, but he still worried about the rest of his family. His father Greg was old-fashioned, and his uncle Steve, who would surely be at the birthday dinner, was openly distrustful of the Caraxian visitors. Zara spent the days before the visit researching human family customs and traditions. She was determined to make a good impression. She practiced making appropriate small talk and even learned to bake a simple cake as a birthday gift for Noah's mother. The morning of the visit, Zara stood in front of the mirror examining her appearance. She wore a modest human-style dress that complemented her blue skin. She had pinned back her silvery hair in a style she had seen human women wear. She wondered if she should try to look more human for the occasion. Wah came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and meeting her eyes in the mirror. "You look perfect just as you are," he said, kissing her cheek. "I fell in love with you." "Not some human version of you." Zara leaned back against him, grateful for his reassurance, but still nervous. The Caraxian Council had encouraged integration, but romantic relationships between species were still rare enough to raise eyebrows among both humans and Caraxians. The drive to Noah's family home in Riverdale took nearly 2 hours. Zara spent much of it asking questions about his family. "So your sister Amy is the one who became a doctor?" she asked as they drove through the countryside. Noah nodded. "Yes, and she has always been the pride of the family. The scientific mind. All my parents' hopes for a child in medicine fulfilled." Zara sensed his slight discomfort. You are accomplished as well. Cultural diplomacy is highly regarded among my people. Noah smiled, feeling better. She always knew what to say to make him feel valued. As they approached the small town, Zara noticed the subtle changes. Fewer signs of Caraxian influence, fewer integration posters, no Caraxian script on any buildings. She felt a flutter of anxiety in her three-chambered heart. Noah squeezed her hand, noticing her freckles pulsing with a faster rhythm. It will be okay. He promised, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. When they pulled into the driveway of the modest two-story house, Noah's mother, Carol, was already waiting on the porch, her expression a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Carol's eyes widened as Zara emerged from the car. There was no hiding her alien nature from her blue skin and silver hair. To her unusual proportions, slightly too tall and slender to be human, Noah made the introductions, carefully watching his mother's reaction. "It is an honor to meet you," Carol, Zara said with a formal bow, a traditional Caraxian greeting. "I have brought you a gift for your birth celebration." She presented a small package wrapped in shimmering material that seemed to change colors. "Thank you," Carol said, accepting the gift with obvious surprise. Well, this is unexpected, but please come in." Inside the house, Noah's father, Greg, and his sister, Amy, were setting the table. They both froze when Zara entered the room. Amy dropped a fork with a clatter that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Noah felt his anxiety rising, but Zara moved forward with confidence, her diplomatic training evident as she greeted each family member respectfully. Mai was the first to recover her scientific curiosity. "Overcoming her initial shock, your species' bioluminescence is fascinating," she said, noticing Zara's glowing freckles. "Is it controlled consciously, or is it an automatic response to emotional states?" Zara smiled, appreciating the interest rather than fear. "It is both," she explained. "I can suppress it with concentration, but it naturally reflects our emotional state right now. I am feeling hopeful, so they glow with a gentle blue tone. When I am excited, they pulse with a brighter intensity." Greg, Noah's father, remained silent, watching Zara with wary eyes. Noah recognized the expression his father wore when encountering something he did not understand but was trying to process. The doorbell rang, breaking the awkward moment. Carol excused herself to answer it, returning a moment later with a portly, middle-aged man with a ruddy face and distrustful eyes. Noah's uncle Steve had arrived. Steve stopped short when he saw Zara, his face darkening with displeasure. "What is this?" he demanded, looking at Noah. "You brought one of them to a family gathering." Zara's freckles dimmed slightly at his hostile tone, but she maintained her composure. "Uncle Steve," Noah said, his voice firm. "This is Zara, my girlfriend. She is here as my guest." Steve scowled, but Carol stepped in smoothly, placing a hand on her brother's arms. "Steve, it is my birthday dinner, and Noah and Zara are my guests. Please be polite." Steve grumbled something under his breath, but moved to the table without further comment. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Zara felt Noah's hand find hers under the table, giving it a reassuring squeeze. They had expected some resistance, but facing it directly was still difficult. Noah looked at Zara with admiration. Despite the chilly reception, she stood tall and dignified, her presence regal and composed. He felt a surge of love and pride that this remarkable being had chosen him. The first part of dinner was eaten in uncomfortable silence, broken only by requests to pass dishes. Zara tried her best to enjoy the unfamiliar foods, carefully copying how the humans used their utensils. "Are you enjoying Earth food?" Amy finally asked, breaking the silence. Zara nodded. "Some flavors are quite new to me," she admitted. "Caraxian cuisine tends to be less sweet and more spiced, but I have developed a fondness for many Earth dishes, especially pizza." Amy laughed at this unexpectedly normal preference, the tension easing slightly. Noah watched as Zara began to win over his family. One small conversation at a time, he knew there was still a long way to go, especially with his uncle Steve. But it was a beginning. As the evening wore on, Noah found himself imagining a future where Zara was truly accepted as part of his family, where their relationship was not a source of tension or controversy, but simply accepted as normal. It seemed like a distant dream, but looking at Zara's hopeful face, he believed it might someday be possible. The 2 weeks before departure passed in a whirlwind of activity. Noah had countless forms to fill out, medical examinations to complete, and crash courses in Caraxian language and customs, to attend the cultural center, had arranged everything with remarkable efficiency once they understood the diplomatic importance of his journey. The night before they were to leave, Noah's family hosted a farewell dinner, his mother cooking all his favorite foods while trying to hide her tears. Amy had prepared a detailed list of all the scientific observations she wanted him to make, and his father had given him an old pocket watch that had belonged to his grandfather. "Keep track of Earth time," Greg had said gruffly. "So you don't forget us." "As if I could," Noah had replied, hugging his father tightly. Now Noah and Zara stood at the Caraxian spaceport on the outskirts of Chicago. A sleek silver building that seemed to defy gravity, parts of it floating without visible support. Noah had passed this building many times but had never been inside before. The interior was even more impressive. Vast open spaces with light that seemed to come from nowhere, and everywhere at once. Caraxians moved about with purpose, their blue and purple skin in various shades, creating a beautiful contrast against the silver and white of the architecture. Noah felt conspicuously human as they checked in at a desk staffed by a Caraxian official whose freckles pulsed with surprise at seeing him. "This is Noah Anderson Zara," explained in English a cultural liaison from Earth. "He has been granted permission by the High Council to travel to the homeworld." The official nodded, checking something on a screen that floated in mid-air, rather than being attached to any device. "His travel authorization is in order." He confirmed, his six-fingered hands moving gracefully over the floating display. "But there are special protocols for human passengers." Noah was directed to a separate area where he was given a small device to wear on his wrist. "This will monitor your vital signs during the journey and alert medical staff if there are any concerns." The Caraxian doctor explained, her voice carrying the same musical quality as Zara's. Though her accent was thicker, Noah nodded, trying not to show his nervousness. The reality of what he was about to do was finally sinking in. He was leaving Earth, traveling to a world humans had only seen in transmitted images. "Are you all right?" Zara asked quietly, noticing the change in his demeanor. "Just nervous," he admitted. "It's really happening, isn't it?" Zara took his hand, her touch sending the familiar, pleasant tingling up his arm. "Yes," she said, "and I will be with you every moment." The ship itself was nothing like the rockets or space shuttles Noah had seen in museums or videos. It was organic in appearance, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to flow into each other, rather than being constructed of separate parts. Their cabin was spacious and comfortable with adjustments, made for Noah's human needs, the lighting slightly warmer than Caraxians preferred. The temperature a compromise between their different comfort levels. The journey began with barely a sensation of movement, the ship rising silently into the sky using technology that humans were still trying to understand. Noah watched through a viewing panel as Earth grew smaller, blue and green and white against the blackness of space, his home becoming just another planet once they were underway. Zara showed him around the ship, introducing him to the crew, who regarded him with curious but respectful interest. He was, after all, the first human to travel on a Caraxian vessel. The captain, a tall Caraxian with dark blue skin and silver markings around his eyes, welcomed Noah formally. "We are honored to have you aboard, Liaison Anderson," he said. "Your presence represents a significant step in relations between our people." Noah thanked him, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was representing all of humanity on this journey. Life aboard the ship quickly fell into a routine, the artificial gravity and environmental systems making it comfortable for both species. Noah spent his morning studying Caraxian language and customs. In the afternoon, he documented his experiences for the reports he would eventually submit to the cultural center, and in the evenings, he and Zara joined other passengers in the communal area. She discovered that Caraxians were deeply social beings, gathering each evening for music, conversation, and shared meals. Despite being known for their technological achievements, they valued personal connections highly. 2 weeks into the journey, Noah was in the ship's observation lounge, staring out at the stars, when a young Caraxian approached him hesitantly. "Excuse me," the Caraxian said in carefully practiced English. "You are the human?" "Yes," Noah nodded, smiling at the young male whose freckles were pulsing with excitement. "I am studying Earth cultures," the Caraxian explained. "My name is Nex." I wonder if you would answer some questions. Soon Noah found himself surrounded by several curious Caraxians, all eager to learn about Earth and humans. Firsthand, he answered questions about everything from human music to politics to dating customs. Is it true that humans only have 5 fingers? A female Caraxian asked. Noah held up his hand, showing his 5 digits. Yes. He confirmed, though some humans are born with more or fewer. They examined his hand with fascination, comparing it to their 6-fingered ones. In your heart? The young male next asked. It has only how many chambers? 4, Noah said, placing his hand over his chest. Amazing, another commented. How inefficient. Yet you survive. Noah laughed at this blunt assessment. Caraxian directness was something he had grown used to with Zara. They didn't mean to be rude. They simply saw no point in hiding their thoughts. Zara watched from across the room, her freckles glowing with pride as Noah handled the questions with patience and good humor. He had adapted remarkably well to life aboard the ship, forming friendships with several crew members and impressing the captain with his willingness to learn. That night, as they prepared for sleep, Zara found Noah studying a star chart on his tablet. Looking for Earth, he asked, sitting beside him. Noah nodded. We're so far away already, he said with wonder. And we still have over 2 months to go. Zara pointed to a small bluish star on the chart. That is my sun, she said. The light from my homeworld, it looks so ordinary from a distance, doesn't it? Noah took her hand. I can't wait to see it, he said. Your cities, your oceans, everything you've told me about. Zara's freckles pulsed with happiness. I never imagined I would be bringing a human home with me, she admitted. When I was assigned to Earth, I expected a professional diplomatic posting. Not. She paused, looking at him with her alien eyes that somehow held such familiar emotion. Not to fall in love. Noah pulled her, close, kissing her gently, their biochemical differences making her lips taste slightly sweet and metallic against his. A sensation he had come to love. As the journey continued, Noah experienced the strange disorientation of space travel. Time seemed both compressed and expanded, days blending together without the familiar rhythms of sunrise and sunset. The ship maintained an artificial day-night cycle, but it wasn't the same. He kept a journal marking Earth dates and recording his thoughts and observations. Day 37 of journey. He wrote, today I realized I no longer notice the differences between humans and Caraxians as much. When I look at Zara, I don't see an alien. I just see her, the woman I love. Is it the same for the Caraxians around me? Do they still see me as a curiosity, or am I becoming just Noah to them? The answer came a few days later when he entered the dining area to find the crew celebrating a Caraxian holiday. The space decorated with floating lights and everyone wearing traditional garments. Noah hesitated at the entrance, feeling suddenly out of place, but the captain spotted him and beckoned him over. Liaison Anderson. The captain said, we have something for you. He was presented with a Caraxian celebration robe in his size modified slightly to accommodate human proportions, but otherwise authentic in every detail. We would be honored if you would join our celebration, the captain said, deeply moved. Noah changed into the robe and joined the festivities, Zara showing him the traditional dances and helping him pronounce the ritual phrases they ate. Foods prepared specially to be safe for human consumption, while still representing Caraxian traditions. By the end of the night, Noah realized he had crossed an invisible boundary. He was no longer just an observer or a guest, but something closer to an accepted member of their community as they approached the Caraxian star system. Excitement spread throughout the ship. Many of the crew and passengers had been away from home for years on their diplomatic mission to Earth. Noah spent hours in the observation lounge watching as distant points of light resolved into planets, the Caraxian homeworld. Zara growing from a tiny dot to a recognizable sphere marbled, with purple oceans and golden landmasses so different from Earth's blue and green. When they finally achieved orbit, Noah was stunned by the view. Zara was beautiful but alien, the patterns of continents unfamiliar, the colors otherworldly. Yet there was something deeply moving about seeing another inhabited world with his own eyes. Zara stood beside him, her arm around his waist. Welcome to my home, she said softly. Noah felt a complex mixture of emotions, excitement, fear, wonder, and beneath it all, love for the woman beside him who had brought him across the stars as they prepared for descent to the surface. Zara explained what would happen next. "The High Council wishes to meet you immediately," she said as the first human visitor to Kazara. "You are considered an important diplomatic figure." 1 week later, Noah received an unexpected call from his mother, Carol, asking if he and Zara would come for Sunday dinner. Noah was surprised by the invitation so soon after the birthday dinner, which had been tense at best. "Is Uncle Steve coming?" he asked cautiously. Noah's mother replied, "Just us family and Zara." Of course, Noah glanced at Zara, who sat nearby, reading a human novel on her tablet, her bioluminescent freckles glowing softly in the dim light of their apartment. He covered the phone. "With his hand, Mom wants us to come for dinner Sunday, just the family." "No, Uncle Steve." Zara looked up, her vertical pupils widening slightly. "I would like that," she said, her melodic voice hopeful. They arrived at the family home on Sunday afternoon to find Noah's father, Greg, working in the front garden. He stood up when their car pulled into the driveway, wiping his hands on his jeans and nodding a greeting. His expression neutral but not unwelcoming. Noah noticed subtle changes in the house. A small Caraxian plant in a pot by the front door. A book about Caraxian culture on the coffee table, signs that his family was at least making an effort. He greeted Zara with an enthusiastic hug as if they were old friends, showing her a medical journal with an article about Caraxian physiology. Zara bent her head close to Amy's, the silver strands of her hair catching the light as they examined the article together. Noah found his mother in the kitchen preparing dinner. "Need any help?" he offered, leaning against the counter. Carol smiled at her son. "I thought we'd try something different today," she said, gesturing to several unusual ingredients on the counter. "I found a recipe for a Caraxian dish. I hope Zara will like it." Noah was touched by his mother's thoughtfulness. "It looks great, Mom. Thanks for doing this." Carol paused her chopping. "I've been thinking about what you said about being unfair," she admitted. "I raised you to judge people as individuals, not by where they come from or what they look like. I wasn't living up to my own values." Noah hugged his mother, feeling a knot of tension he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. Begin to unravel. Dinner was a different experience from the birthday meal. The conversation flowed more naturally as Noah's family asked genuine questions about Caraxian culture and Zara's life before coming to Earth. Zara described her home city with its towering crystal spires and floating gardens, her job as a cultural attaché, and her first impressions of Earth and humans. "You must have thought we were so primitive," Greg said, speaking more than he had at their previous meeting. Zara shook her head. "Not primitive, just different," she corrected. "Our species developed along different paths, but humans have achieved remarkable things in your own way. Your art, your music, your literature. They contain an emotional depth that my people sometimes struggle to express." "Caraxians are more logical than emotional then?" Amy asked. "Not exactly," Zara said, considering how to explain. "We experience emotions deeply, but we express them differently. Our bioluminescence." She touched the glowing spots on her face, reveals much of what we feel without words. Humans rely more on facial expressions and verbal communication. Conversation continued through dinner. Carol's attempt at Caraxian cuisine turning out surprisingly well, though she apologized for not getting the spices quite right. After dinner, they moved to the living room where Greg somewhat hesitantly showed Zara his collection of old jazz records, something he rarely shared with anyone. "This music," Zara said after listening to a Miles Davis recording, "reminds me of Caraxian night songs. The improvisation, the complexity. It speaks to something universal." Greg's face lit up with pleasure at her understanding. He began playing more records, explaining the history and significance of each artist while Zara listened with genuine interest. Noah watched from across the room, amazed at the connection forming between his father and Zara over something as unexpected as jazz music. Emmy sidled up beside him, smiling. "I told you they just needed time," she said. Noah nodded. "I never expected Dad to be the one to really connect with her." "It makes sense, though," Amy said thoughtfully. "Dad has always appreciated precision and complexity. That's what he sees in his engineering work and in his music." Zara represents both. As the evening progressed, Noah noticed his mother watching Zara and Greg with a thoughtful expression. Later, as Noah helped his mother wash dishes in the kitchen. Carol spoke quietly. She makes you happy, doesn't she? Noah nodded without hesitation. Happier than I've ever been, he admitted. Carol dried a plate carefully. I can see that, she said, and I'm beginning to understand why she's quite remarkable, not because she's Caraxian, but because of who she is. Noah felt a wave of relief wash over him. Thank you, Mom. That means everything. When it was time to leave, Greg surprised everyone by giving Zara a somewhat awkward but genuine hug. You're welcome here anytime, he said, his voice gruff with emotion. In the car on the way home, Zara's freckles pulsed with a soft, happy glow. Your family is trying. She said that means more than perfect acceptance. Noah reached over to take her hand, their fingers intertwining in what had become a familiar gesture, despite the difference in their anatomy. Several days later, Noah was working late at the Interspecies Cultural Center when he received an urgent message from Sarah asking him to meet her at the Caraxian embassy as soon as possible. Her message gave no details, but something in her wording made him worry. He found her in the embassy garden, a beautiful recreation of a Caraxian meditation space with floating crystal sculptures and plants that responded to touch with soft musical notes. She sat on a bench, her posture rigid, her freckles pulsing with an anxious rhythm. Noah, what's wrong? He asked. Sitting beside her, Zara took his hands in hers, her skin cool against his. I have received news from the Caraxian High Council, she said, her dual-toned voice tighter than usual. They are calling me back to the homeworld. Noah felt his heart drop. What, why? The council has concerns about the increasing number of Caraxian-human relationships, she explained. They fear we are becoming too integrated too quickly before proper cultural understanding has been established. They wish to interview those of us in such relationships to establish new guidelines. Noah struggled to process this information. How long will you be gone? Zara's freckles dimmed. That is what I needed to discuss with you, she said. The journey takes 3 months each way, and the council sessions could last weeks or even months. I could be gone for nearly a year. Noah felt as if the ground had dropped from beneath him. A year, that's too long. There is an alternative, Zara said, her voice hesitant, her eyes searching his. You could come with Manoa. Blinked in surprise. To your homeworld? Zara nodded. It is unprecedented, but as a cultural liaison, your insights would be valuable to the council. And she paused, her freckles pulsing faster. I cannot bear the thought of such a long separation. But my job, my family. Noah started, then stopped, seeing the pain in Zara's eyes. I understand if it is too much to ask, she said softly. I would never force you to choose. Noah took a deep breath, trying to think clearly. The idea was terrifying and exciting. In equal measure, no human had yet visited the Caraxian homeworld. The diplomatic visits had all been one way so far. How long would we be there? He asked. 6 months at minimum, Zara said, perhaps longer. Depending on the council's deliberations. Noah thought about what this would mean, leaving everything familiar behind, being the only human in an alien world, but also the chance to see Zara's home, to understand her culture fully, to be part of something historic. I need to think about it, he said finally. I need to talk to my boss. My family. Zara nodded. Of course, she agreed. The ship departs in 2 weeks. I must be on it. Whether alone or with you, the next few days were a blur of activity. Noah met with his supervisor at the cultural center, who was surprisingly supportive. This could be an incredible opportunity, Helen said. Not just for you, but for human Caraxian relations as a whole. You would be the first human cultural representative to visit their world. She arranged for his position to be held for him, and for the trip to be classified as a diplomatic mission, which solved many of the practical problems. Telling his family was harder. They gathered in his parents' living room as he explained the situation. A year, Amy repeated, her eyes wide. You'd be gone for a whole year, at least. Noah confirmed. Maybe longer? His mother looked concerned. It's so far, she said, and we know so little about their world. Is it safe? Zara, who sat beside Noah, nodded respectfully. Our atmosphere is compatible with human physiology, she explained. And the council has already approved special accommodations for Noah's different nutritional needs. Greg, who had been silent, finally spoke, looking directly at Noah. Is this what you want? So Noah met his father's gaze, thinking carefully before answering. I love Zara, he said, simply, and this is the chance to truly understand her world, to see where she comes from. Yes, it's what I want. Greg nodded slowly. Then you should go. Noah felt a rush of gratitude for his father's simple acceptance. Carol reached across to take Noah's hand. We'll miss you terribly, she said, tears in her eyes, but this is clearly important. Mi's scientific curiosity quickly overcame her initial shock. You have to document everything, she insisted. The medical implications alone are fascinating. Not to mention the cultural aspects as the reality of the decision sank in. Noah felt a mixture of terror and exhilaration. He would be the first human to visit the Caraxian homeworld, to see their cities, their natural wonders, to meet Zara's family and friends. It was overwhelming. Noah's first step onto Caraxian soil was momentous, though he felt it only as a slight difference in texture beneath his feet. The gravity was similar to Earth's thanks to the ship's gradual adjustment during their journey, but the air carried unfamiliar scent, sweet and spicy, with an underlying mineral quality that was neither pleasant nor unpleasant, simply alien. He blinked in the light of a sun that was slightly bluer than Earth's, casting everything in a subtly different hue. The spaceport around them was a marvel of architecture, with flowing lines and structures that seemed to defy physics. Some buildings appearing to float above the ground. A delegation waited to greet them, led by a tall Caraxian with deep indigo skin and elaborate silver markings on his face denoting high rank. Zara bowed formally, and Noah quickly followed her example. Honored Counselor Lorex, she said, this is Noah Anderson of Earth, the cultural liaison who has been granted permission to attend the council sessions. Counselor studied Noah with obvious curiosity, his vertical pupils widening slightly. Welcome to Kazara, Liaison Anderson, he said in perfect English. We have been eager to meet you. Noah had prepared a greeting in the Caraxian language and delivered it, carefully focusing on the complex tonal shifts that gave the words meaning. He saw the counselor's freckles pulse with surprise and approval. You honor us with your effort to learn our speech, the counselor said. Your pronunciation is quite good. For a human, they were escorted to a waiting vehicle that hovered above the ground without any visible means of propulsion. Noah tried not to stare at everything at once, though he wanted to absorb every detail. The city that spread out before them as they traveled was like nothing Noah had ever seen. Towering crystal spires rose into the purple-tinged sky, connected by transparent walkways that sparkled in the sunlight. Parks and gardens floated at various levels throughout the city, creating three-dimensional green spaces where Caraxians relaxed and socialized. It's beautiful, he whispered to Zara, who sat beside him in the transport. She smiled, her freckles glowing with pride. This is Talax, she explained, the capital city and seat of the High Council. Her expression softened. You're the first human to see it with human eyes. Noah felt the weight of that responsibility. He was seeing wonders no other human had witnessed firsthand. He activated the small recording device he had been permitted to bring, documenting the journey for those who would follow. They were taken to a residence that had been prepared for them. A graceful building near the center of the city, with rooms specifically modified for Noah's comfort. You will rest today, Counselor Lorex informed them. The council will receive you tomorrow for the formal welcome. After the counselor left, Noah explored their new home, finding it both alien and somehow welcoming, the furniture designed with organic flowing lines, the lighting adjustable to suit either Caraxian or human preferences. A small garden on the balcony with plants from both worlds. Zara watched him with amusement as he examined everything like an excited child. What do you think, she asked. It's amazing, Noah replied, but then his expression grew more serious. What about your family? Won't they want to meet? Zara's freckles pulsed with a complex pattern that Noah had learned to recognize as nervousness. They will, she confirmed. They are very curious, about you, especially my mother. She has been somewhat concerned about our relationship. Noah raised his eyebrows just somewhat. Zara laughed, the melodic sound echoing in the room. She is a member of the Science Council. She believes interspecies relationships should be studied thoroughly before being encouraged. Great, Noah said with a wry smile. So I'm a science experiment to your mother? Zara touched his face gently. "No," she said softly. "You are the one I chose, the one who crossed the stars for me. That means something even to a scientist." That evening they were visited by Zara's family. Her mother Naya, tall and dignified with the same silver hair as Zara, but darker blue skin. Her father Talon, shorter, with a scientist's curious eyes, and her younger brother, Felix, who stared at Noah with undisguised fascination. The meeting was formal at first, with carefully polite conversation, but as the evening progressed, the atmosphere relaxed, especially when Noah presented the gifts he had brought from Earth books. Music and a bottle of maple syrup, which he had learned was considered a delicacy among Caraxians who had visited. Felix had countless questions about Earth, many of them amusingly direct, as true humans keep other species as companions in their homes, he asked. Noah smiled, thinking of his mother's cat. "Yes, we call them pets, usually cats or dogs, though there are many types." "Why?" Zara's brother asked, his head tilted in the characteristic Caraxian gesture of curiosity. Noah had never really considered the question. "They provide companionship." He explained, "They're not sentient like us or you, but they have personalities. They can show affection." Felix seemed to find this both strange and interesting. Naya, Zara's mother, observed Noah with scientific interest, though she made efforts to be welcoming. Her questions often veered toward the biological differences between their species and the implications for Zara and Noah's relationship. "The council has many questions about human Caraxian compatibility," she said at one point, her gaze direct. Noah met her eyes steadily. "I understand," he said, "and I'm happy to answer any questions that might help others like Zara's father." Talon was quieter than his wife, but Noah noticed how his eyes softened when he looked at his daughter and how attentively he listened to Noah's descriptions of Earth culture. "It is brave, what you have done," Talon said as the evening was ending. "Leaving your world behind. Few would have such courage." Noah looked at Zara, who was deep in conversation with her brother. "I didn't see it as a choice," he said simply. Talon nodded, his freckles glowing with what Noah had learned to recognize as approval. "I believe I understand," he said. The next day, Noah and Zara were escorted to the council chambers, a vast circular room with seating arranged in tiers around a central floor. The room was filled with Caraxians of various ranks, their skin tones ranging from pale blue to deep indigo to rich purple, all watching with interest as the first human visitor was presented. Noah stood before the High Council, feeling the weight of every gaze, his heart pounding, but his posture straight and confident. Zara beside him, providing a reassuring presence. Counselor Lorex introduced him formally. Noah Anderson, of Earth Cultural Liaison and partner to Attaché Zara. Noah delivered his prepared speech in careful Caraxian, then switched to English, knowing that most of the council members understood it. "I come in friendship," he said, "to learn and to share, to build understanding between our peoples. I am honored by your welcome and your willingness to include me in these important discussions." The head counselor, a female with deep purple skin and elaborate silver markings, rose to respond. "We welcome you, Noah Anderson," she said. "Your presence marks a new chapter in relations between our worlds. These council sessions will explore many aspects of our growing connection, including the matter of interspecies relationships, such as yours." Noah felt a flicker of anxiety at these words, but kept his expression neutral. The formalities concluded, Noah and Zara were shown to seats near the front, where they would observe the day's proceedings. Much of it conducted in the Caraxian language, though. Translators were provided for Noah as the sessions began. Noah realized that the discussions were far broader than just interspecies relationships the council was debating. Trade agreements, scientific exchanges, educational programs, and cultural initiatives. Zara leaned close, translating nuances that the official translator missed, explaining the complex political dynamics at play. Noah took careful notes, understanding that every detail would be important for his reports back to Earth. During a break in the proceedings, several council members approached Noah with questions about Earth's governance systems, its approaches to resource management, and its artistic traditions. He answered as thoroughly as he could, aware that he had become an unofficial ambassador for his entire species by the end of the first day. Noah was exhausted but exhilarated, the weight of responsibility balanced by the sense that he was participating in something truly historic. Over the following weeks, he settled into a routine attending council sessions in the mornings, exploring the city with Zara in the afternoons, and spending evenings either with Zara's family or with other Caraxians who were eager to meet the human visitor. He found himself becoming something of a celebrity. The first human on Kazara was an object of intense curiosity. Wherever he went, Caraxians would approach with questions or simply to observe him. Noah handled the attention with good humor understanding. Their curiosity Zara watched with pride as Noah adapted to life on her world, learning the language, mastering the customs, and winning over even the most skeptical Caraxians with his openness and intelligence. Her mother Naya, who had initially viewed their relationship with scientific detachment, gradually warmed to Noah, especially after spending time with him in her laboratory, where she studied comparative xenobiology. He has an excellent mind, Naya admitted to her daughter after Noah had spent a day helping her catalog differences in neural responses between the species. He asks the right questions. High praise from a Caraxian scientist, Zara noted with a smile. One evening, as they walked through one of the floating gardens that were Zara's favorite places in the city, Noah stopped suddenly, looking out over the alien landscape, the purple oceans visible in the distance under the light of 2 moons. The next morning, Noah woke to find Zara already up and dressed. She sat cross-legged on their small balcony, meditating in the early morning sunlight, her blue skin absorbing the rays in a way humans couldn't, her silvery hair gleaming like polished metal. Noah watched her for a moment, appreciating the peaceful scene before joining her on the balcony with 2 mugs of coffee. She opened her eyes and smiled at him, accepting the drink with a grateful nod. "You were amazing last night," he said. "You handled Uncle Steve better than I would have." Zara took a sip of the coffee, a human habit she had adopted with enthusiasm. "I understand his fear," she said. "Many species react to difference with suspicion. It is a natural protective instinct." Noah admired her ability to see beyond the rudeness to the underlying emotions. It was one of the many things he loved about her. "Do you think they will ever truly accept us?" Zara asked, her voice softer than usual, revealing her vulnerability. Noah reached for her hand. "I think Mom and Amy already do. Dad will come around. He is just processing, and Uncle Steve, well, some people take longer than others." Zara nodded, but Noah could tell she was still troubled by the previous night's tension. "Why don't we go to the Caraxian Cultural Festival today?" He suggested. "It might be nice to be somewhere. You're not the only blue person in the room." Zara's freckles pulsed with happiness at the suggestion. The festival was being held in Millennium Park, a celebration of the 3 years since the Caraxians had arrived on Earth, showcasing their art, music, and cuisine. They arrived to find the park transformed. Colorful floating lights hovered above the crowds without any visible means of support. Caraxian music with its complex harmonies and unusual instruments filled the air, and the smell of exotic spices wafted from food stalls where Caraxian chefs prepared traditional dishes. Zara relaxed visibly as they wandered through the festival, occasionally greeting other Caraxians with the formal bow of her people. Noah noticed how different she seemed here, more confident and at ease. They stopped at a food stall where a Caraxian chef was preparing nishak, a dish similar to Earth stir-fry, but with ingredients in colors humans rarely associated with food. Vivid purples, deep blues, and shimmering gold. Zara ordered in her native language a series of musical clicks and trills that Noah had been trying to learn with limited success. The chef responded with a laugh at something Zara said, glancing at Noah with obvious curiosity. "He says you are brave to try authentic Caraxian cuisine." Zara translated. "Many humans find our food too intense." Noah smiled at the chef. "I'll try anything once," he said as the chef handed him a bowl filled with the colorful mixture. The first bite was indeed intense, flavors exploding on his tongue like nothing he'd ever tasted before. Spicy, sweet, and something else entirely alien but not unpleasant. Zara watched him with amusement as he worked through the complex flavors. "It's good," he said, "finally different but good." They continued through the festival, stopping to watch a performance of traditional Caraxian dance. The dancers' movements fluid and graceful, their bodies seeming to defy gravity at times. Noah was so absorbed in the performance he didn't notice the familiar figure approaching until he heard a voice beside him. "So this is where you disappeared?" Noah turned in surprise to find his sister Amy standing there, watching the dancers with obvious fascination. "Amy," he said, What are you doing here? I saw the festival advertised and thought it might be interesting. Amy explained, especially after meeting Zara. I wanted to learn more. She smiled at Zara, who looked pleasantly surprised by her appearance. Would you like to join us? Zara offered, her freckles glowing with happy excitement at this unexpected development. I nodded enthusiastically. I'd love to. Zara became an enthusiastic guide explaining the significance of different performances, the history behind various artifacts on display, and answering Amy's endless questions with patience. Noah followed along, watching the two most important women in his life finding common ground. They stopped at an art exhibit, displaying Caraxian paintings that seemed to change depending on the angle from which they were viewed. Art responds to bioelectric fields. Zara explained, running her six-fingered hand over a painting that rippled with color at her touch. Humans produce these fields too, but much weaker than Caraxians, so the art responds differently. May reached out hesitantly, touching the painting, which responded with a subtle shift in colors, different from the dramatic change it showed for Zara. Fascinating, Amy breathed. That's why your people's art looks different in photographs. It's not capturing the interactive element. As they continued through the festival, Noah was surprised to see more humans than he expected. Many couples like them, Caraxian and human, together navigating the cultural differences with varying degrees of success. They met Lily and Mara, another mixed couple who had been together since shortly after first contact. Lily, a human environmental scientist, had met Mara while working on a project to adapt Caraxian agricultural techniques to Earth crops. It's nice to meet others like us, Lily said as they shared a table eating lunch. There aren't many of us yet, but the numbers are growing. How do you handle the stairs? Mara asked, her blue skin darker than Zara's with a purple undertone, her eyes a striking gold color. Zara and Noah exchanged glances. We're still figuring it out, Noah admitted honestly. Yesterday was our first time meeting my family. It was challenging. Lily nodded sympathetically. My parents were the same at first, but they've come around, especially after they got to know Marai. Think humans fear what they don't understand, Zara observed. It is the same for some Caraxians. Many of my people still view humans as primitive and emotionally unpredictable. The four of them talked for over an hour, sharing experiences and challenges. Lily and Mara, having been together longer, offered advice about navigating the complex social dynamics of an interspecies relationship. As the afternoon wore on, the festival became more crowded, Amy continuing to ask questions and take notes on her phone for her own research as a doctor. She was particularly interested in Caraxian biology. Does it bother you being studied like this? Noah asked Zara quietly when Amy had stepped away to look at a display of Caraxian medical instruments. Zara considered the question, her head tilting in the characteristic Caraxian gesture of contemplation. No, she decided. Her curiosity comes from a place of genuine interest, not fear or judgment. I find it refreshing. May rejoined them, her eyes bright with excitement. The medical exchange program is accepting applications for human doctors, she announced. I'm going to apply. I want to learn more about Caraxian medicine. Noah looked at his sister with surprise. She had always been ambitious, but he hadn't expected this level of enthusiasm. You'd be perfect for it, Zara said. Your open-mindedness would make you an ideal candidate. Amy beamed at the compliment. I have so many questions about Caraxian physiology. She admitted the idea of a 3-chambered heart alone raises fascinating possibilities for cardiac research. The sun began to set. The festival lights grew brighter, floating spheres of luminescence drifting among the crowds, casting a magical glow over everything. The main stage was prepared for the evening concert, featuring both Caraxian musicians and human artists who had been studying the alien instruments and musical forms. They found seats on the lawn, spreading out a blanket. Amy still bubbling with excitement over everything she had seen. Zara sitting gracefully beside Noah, her hand in his, their fingers intertwined despite the anatomical differences. As the music started, Noah felt a profound sense of contentment. This was what integration should look like. He thought not forced or awkward, but a natural coming together of different beings finding harmony. The Caraxian instruments produced sounds. No human instrument could achieve notes that seemed to vibrate through the body rather than just the ears. The human musicians adding familiar elements that created something entirely new. Neither wholly Caraxian nor wholly human, but a true blend. Noah looked at Zara. Her face wrapped as she listened, her freckles pulsing in time with the music. He realized he was falling even more deeply in love with her, seeing her here in her element, confident and at peace. Amy watched them with a thoughtful expression, noticing the way they leaned toward each other, the casual intimacy of their body language. It was clear to her that this was no passing fancy or exotic experiment, but a genuine deep connection. When the concert ended and they prepared to leave, Amy pulled Noah aside while Zara was saying goodbye to some Caraxian friends. "She's amazing." "Noah," Amy said quietly, "I get it now why you're with her. She's not just different. She's exceptional." Noah felt a rush of gratitude for his sister's understanding. "Thank you," he said. "It means a lot to hear you say that. Mom will come around." Amy assured him she already likes Zara more than she lets on. Dad, too. They just need time. As they walked back to the car, Zara between them, Noah felt more hopeful than he had since bringing Zara home to meet his family. Perhaps with Amy as an ally, the rest of the family would eventually come to see Zara as he did not. As an alien, but simply as the woman he loved. The Chicago skyline glittered before them as they drove home, Zara resting her head on Noah's shoulder in the front seat, while Amy gazed out the window from the back seat, reflecting on everything she had learned. "Do you think we could do this again?" Amy asked. "Next month. There's supposed to be a Caraxian technology exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry.